In the next edition of It's About Money, my guest is Jennifer Blaine. She recently opened a franchise location of Firehouse Subs in the Rochester area, and she'll share some of the ins and outs of being a franchisee. So join us for the next edition of It's About Money. Hello and welcome to another edition of It's About Money. I'm Nannette Nocon and thank you for joining us. My guest is Jennifer Blaine. She recently opened a franchise location of Firehouse Subs in Rochester, and she'll join us to share some of the ins and outs of being a franchisee. Jennifer, thanks for joining us at my show today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell us, how did you decide that you wanted to be a franchisee?
Well, with the corporate job that I had for 11 years, being a supervisor of IT, and the background I have of doing multiple different things in my life, I actually decided that I wanted to be my own, an owner of a business and take care of my employees. And without having any background in how to do that, I figured a franchise would be the best option. It shows you step by step what to do. And one of my former employees recommended Firehouse Subs, and I had never even heard of it. So when I looked it up, their morals and it aligns with mine, and so I decided that was the one I wanted to choose. I called them up and I was like, I want to open your restaurant. Let me open your restaurant, because I had no idea what I was doing at that time. And they kind of walked me through it. I wound up going down to Florida and watching their presentation, and the part of their presentation was Kodak and how Kodak was not innovative when everything changed to digital. And I'm just like, well, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is in Florida. And yeah, so I chose it basically because they do take care of their employees, and it was started by firemen, and it's all, give back to the community kind of stuff. So that's why I chose it.
Oh, that's great. That's one. And in restaurant industry, I mean, there's a lot of different industries to do franchises, but restaurant, it was just taking care of employees. Any particular reason for choosing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, because my employee who recommended it to me, he was in the military, and he was stationed in Texas, and he had said he'd gone to Firehouse every day. And I was like, well, that's okay. So when I looked it up, it was more of the fact that it was started by first responders, and that they have a public safety foundation that gives back, and the fact that the corporate owned stores in Florida, there's like 45 corporate owned stores in Florida, and they base their what franchisees need to do around those stores. So they're testing it prior to a franchise implementing it. And I thought that I'd like that better, because then I wouldn't have to, I needed the step-by-step instruction. And that's why I did look into a couple other franchises, but I just didn't like their main story of how they started. So it was basically, that's how Firehouse came to be.
That's great. It's a wonderful story, I think. That's great. And then what process do you go through to open your own location? I mean, do they vet you? Is there an application process? Tell us about that.
Yeah. In order to, like, in the beginning, you had to, verify financials and make sure that you actually could afford to do it. And then you had to I had to go through an application process where they wanted to just, do background checks and make sure that I'm not a serial killer or something along those lines. And so then after that, after you're approved, then Firehouse helps you to find a location. So they will, I have a broker who actually works with a whole bunch of different franchisees to find locations. And then Firehouse has to approve the location and make sure that it's something where there's enough traffic and there's enough people around. And then from that point forward, you have to, there's also, they have it's weekly. They plan out everything that you need to do by this week has to be done. You have to contact your vendors. You have to do all this stuff. So it was a very step-by-step process. I think it was around 36-week process that you had to go through. I think it could have been a little more in depth, and I think it could have been a little, there could have been a little more information given at each step. But I do have an area rep who helps me. So if I, if I have any questions, I can just text him or call him, and he's right there for me to answer any questions. So that's been really helpful.
So it sounds like the support that's given by the franchise, by Firehouse Subs is it's a nice framework instead of you trying to start from all sorts of places that there's that opportunity. Yes. Okay. That's great. So how would you say, in terms of challenges that you had to go through during the process, what would you say are some of the challenges that you had to face?
The main challenge was picking the contractor and the business plan, actually, that I had to do for the bank to get the loan. That was a big challenge, because I had to go through, there was a 404-page financial disclosure document for Firehouse Subs. And I had to go through and figure out financials for 3 years in advance. And it's all based on, an average of all 1,400 restaurants, where, some of them are really high producing and some of them are really low. And I don't think that looking back on it now, since I've been open 7 months, I don't think that I had accurately projected financials. So that was a big one. That was a big one, honestly. And I think that, also the thought that I was only going to have to put in so much money to open this, which turned out to be about 1/3 of the amount I've had to put into it. But that's the biggest challenge financially, actually, is the biggest challenge for me.
I see. So it's yeah, okay, got it. So the financial aspect of it, so just coming prepared. But if you weren't prepared, that would have been even more challenging, I think.
For sure. Yeah.
So, and then in terms of, like, if you were to compare having a franchise with just going at a business, would you say that you would still choose a franchise over just starting a business and, any other way? Would you say that would be something that you could compare at this time, or hard to say?
Yeah, I do. At this point, I do think that I would still choose a franchise, because I like the fact that it there's always somewhere where you can turn if you have a question, which I feel like if I had just opened a restaurant on my own, I would have been lost and I probably would have never made it. So the fact that I do have that background, that backing, where I can reach out and ask questions, or there's all sorts of, there's libraries and things on the internet that are all directly there for franchisees. I think that that's very helpful, especially coming from like an IT background, where I have to have, step-by-step instructions for everything. So I do like that I'm able to look. I don't necessarily always look at it, but I know that it's there if I need it. So that's why I like the franchise plans.
Yeah, I see. Oh, that's great. Yeah, you're right. I think it's good to have at least a model you could reference. You don't have to follow it exactly, but it's nice to do that. So,
right.
So on a day-to-day basis, so in your role as a franchise owner, how many hats do you wear? Do you wear a lot of those because you're getting started, like in terms of ordering, marketing? Do you do a lot of that, or do you have different people that you've hired to help make it happen for you?
I run the register in the restaurant for the most part. I also do the marketing and stuff like that. I do have a general manager who runs everything else as far as ordering and training and taking care of the employees. And then we have 4 shift leads that are supposed to handle the shifts with the regular team members. So we do have a hierarchy here. I'm the money. So that's what I do the most of. But other than that, yeah, I do have people who do the jobs pretty well.
That's great. So in an environment where it's a challenge to find people, because we have the scarcity of people with the great resignation of since 2020, I guess, or even earlier than that. How are you? How has it been in terms of recruiting people since you started the franchise?
Surprisingly, I do not have any employee problems. we are fully staffed. I've been fully staffed since the get-go. And I don't know if maybe that's because of the fact that I opened this restaurant as an employee focused person. And I think that, I want to make sure that the employees are happy for the most part. We have had a little bit of employee drama that wound up, we had to let a couple people go, but there's always somebody there to backfill. I have a really good team of people that work for me. So it's great. I'm really shocked, and I'm, knocking on wood right now because I want to make sure that I still have that full house of employees, but I haven't had a problem.
That's great. That's really a very important message, that being employee focused is something that makes a huge difference. They say that a lot of employees, like half the employees in the United States, they're looking for another job because their boss has forgotten to say hello or something like that, because many people are working remotely, so they don't get a chance to see their employer. So there's a lot of disconnect or detachment from their employer.
Well, and that's why I left my previous job, is because my manager actually, he did not feel like I was worthy of the job. It was more of, I worked all day, every day, and it wasn't appreciated. So that's why I was like, I need to do something different. I need to make sure that my employees feel, and I was very good as a supervisor at that job too, where my employees felt that they were appreciated. And that's partially, that's probably 95% of the reason why I opened this restaurant. So that's for sure.
That's amazing. That's amazing. No, you opened around the time of the pandemic. So were there any challenges that you would say that, or was that just normal? Because that's when you opened.
Right. Yeah, I would say that it's just been normal for me because, it allowed me to have a little bit more time to, focus on finding a location. But I really wanted this building prior to even starting this franchise search. It was available the whole time that I was thinking of even opening a franchise. And it was here. It wasn't available to rent. And then it just happened to fall into place right at the end of, about January of 2021. It was available. So I took it. I think that what happened with the pandemic was I left my job in February of 2020, and I left right at the perfect time, and then I just had all of this time to spend to focus on opening a franchise. So that was actually helpful for me.
That's great. Oh, that's wonderful. It's great. It sounds like you've been able to find the silver lining of the pandemic, right? Just take the time to kind of search out your what you're looking for, and it sounds like you open a business with a heart too, having the support of the firemen and really meaningful workplace. That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, and great subs too. So that's terrific. And what would you say, like when you get up in the morning, because your job is challenging, demanding, that kind of thing, your business, and what would you say makes you get up in the morning and say, I'm ready to go at it again?
Oh, I'm definitely, the customers, I love people. So I'm very, I like talking to people. I know most of their names, the regular customers, and also the employees. I have a good set of people. I like to see them every day, and it's good to come to work. And I actually have less stress opening and owning my own business than I had working for a corporation, which is crazy. You'd think I'd feel so much stress doing this, but I don't. It's like it got lifted off my shoulders opening my own business.
That's beautiful. That's great. Well, it's been delightful to have you as a guest. And Jennifer Blaine, franchise owner of the Firehouse Subs location in Rochester. And I appreciate you sharing with us the reason why you chose Firehouse Subs. And I appreciate you sharing the ins and outs of being a franchisee. All the best to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you, our guests, for joining us. I'm Nannette Nocon. Until next time, it's about money.